Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm joined by Chris McElwain. It's half-time at Celtic Park, and it is Celtic 0, St Mirren 0. Not much in the way of incidents to discuss, Chris. It's been a dominant display by Celtic. They've controlled much of the game. They're looking, as you know, they're looking for that point of attack. They're doing the old back and forward horseshoe style approach. I think when I've been watching the game, a lot of it comes down to the fact that we've been very unproductive on the wings. I mean, we really haven't beaten a man, got a ball across. I've seen balls coming in from the likes of Engels and Alistair Johnson on the right-hand side, for example, but I'm not seeing enough from the wingers, Chris. And it's a big issue today because we're not creating chances. Adam Ida's not getting the ball. I think he's touched the ball 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I think, at one point towards the end of the half, I think he was only on 3 touches and he came back to actually, I think, just get a touch, came running back into pretty much our half. It's not been a pretty watch. Yes, we're dominating in terms of possession. I think well over 70% of the play is taking place in and around the St Mirren box, but what we're seeing is a bit of a dearth of creativity at the moment. It's funny how you take a player like Rio Hatate and you suddenly appreciate what he brings to the team when he's not there. And I think we've missed that little bit of invention. And you're hoping, as you said, that some of that slack will be picked up by the players on the wings, Nick Kuhn, Daizen Maeda. Maeda's had a couple of decent crosses coming in, a couple of real awful crosses as well. Kuhn, as was evidenced right at the end of the half there, got himself into a great position, showed good physicality, but then couldn't pick a player out and, kind of balloons the cross a bit. So we're lacking that clinical edge, we're lacking that final product and that final ball. Yes, we're very much in control, but as we've seen, St Mirren, when they do venture forward, they're creating some, relatively decent chances, and Schmeichel's had to be on alert on a couple of occasions. So St Mirren's got a lot to play for today. They're with Dundee United losing, I think St Mirren's got a chance of a European place. Yep. So the incentive is really with them. But I'd like to see more from us. I really would. I think I'd like to see maybe a bit more from Engels, maybe taking up some of that creative responsibility. Same from Bernardo and Cal Mack. I'd like to see them do more to try and plug that gap that we've got with Rio being out. And I would certainly like to see a bit more from the wings. Ida, the few touches I can kind of allow because we're not really giving him a huge amount of opportunities, and he's certainly putting a shift in. And I like the fact that he was prepared to come deep to try and get the ball and impose himself in the game. But yeah, certainly I think collectively we're going to have to try and find a formula to break down this St Mirren defence because it's quite dogged at the moment.
Well, did you use that word on purpose, just as you're... Who let the dogs out? Every time your dog barks, the big man's coming in for a special appearance.
Nobody agrees with me in this house, and that includes a dog.
Right, I'm going to bring in some of the comments to see if anybody in there agrees with you. And I'm going to start off with Ryan Geddes, who comes in. What happened at the corner? Was it a full corner? Are you allowed to pass to yourself? Didn't make much sense to me. Well, what happened, Ryan, is Greg Taylor went over to the corner and he rolled his foot on the ball, basically taking the corner, which means the ball's in play. When Engels goes over, the corner has already been taken. He kind of feigns as if he's going to take it and then starts running. So it's something you've seen quite a bit over the last couple of seasons. It is, for me, a way of just getting the ball back into play rather than trying to loft a flight in, particularly against a big, strong defence like St Mirren. Get the ball back into play and try to regroup it and then create a chance. But obviously, Dickinson didn't get the memo, but it was not a foul corner.
It wasn't. No.
Should have been allowed to play, but I think that has been. And by the way, I'm not looking just at the referee. I'm going to analyse the entire game here. He's constantly stopping the game. Give him an excuse, and he will stop the game.
Yeah,
both players go down. St Mirren will get the free kick. That is basically what's going to happen today. Stop, start. You've got a St Mirren goalie who's been wasting time from the first time he had the ball. This is what you're up against. We've got to overcome that. Now, when it's a really, really poor refereeing decision and it prevents us from scoring a goal, for example, I don't subscribe to if you're good enough, you'll win the game anyway. Absolutely don't. But see all these wee niggly bits? We've been up against that all season, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, and we should have enough about us to circumvent that, right? I mean, I agree. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to see a goalkeeper in the first half actually time wasting and trying to disrupt the momentum. It's frustrating, as you say. You see the 50-50s, and it doesn't look as though we're getting any of them. But I think, we should have enough about us to try and turn this domination that we've had, and we have been dominant in the game, into something more productive. Even just half chances, but we've barely tested their goalkeeper. I don't think we've even speculative shots from outside the box today. So I think the guys need to get their heads down, try and do the basics a wee bit better. Make sure we're picking out players. And what I'd like to see somebody take just a wee bit of responsibility rather than continually try and move it. Take a run. We've got players who are pretty decent at the ball. Nicholas Kuhn, carry the ball forward, carry it into the box. Then you never know, you encourage a foul, you get a ricochet that, comes to one of your players, but it makes something happen. But if we're continually just playing around this fort that St Mirren have created essentially in their box, then, we're not, they'll just soak that up all day. And they've got big guys in there. You get Gogic, the other fella, I can't remember his name, who got booked. They're big fellas in that box, and we've got a big guy in Ida, but he's very isolated in there. So run in and take some of the pressure off.
Yeah, create a situation where their game plan goes into chaos, Chris.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. They know this is how Celtic play. We're prepared for that. Do something slightly differently. The only player on the park who's tried that speculative long-range effort is probably Callum McGregor. We know that he's good for it. We know that he's having a prolific season, and he's had 2 attempts at goal. One wasn't great. The first one was a decent effort. But I want more from my wingers. I want more from Kuhn. Kuhn, take on a player. He drifts inside and drifts inside, but you're not taking what he's trying to do there. He's trying to create that space for a shot for himself. Take the player on and get the ball into the box. We've spoken about the type of striker that Adam Ida is. He's a penalty box striker. Get the ball to him in between the sticks. It's simple. It's a Giakoumakis style striker, and he will score if he gets a chance. But as you say, no clear-cut chances. Donny Tiny Hands thought that it would be a close game, probably because of the fact that, as Chris already said, St Mirren have plenty to play for. And also, I think I have been very much a champion, if you like, not because of the style of play of a Stephen Robinson team, but the way that he is able to structure a team and get a shape. He done it in Motherwell. He's doing it right now with St Mirren. He's the type of manager that can really punch above his weight just by having a structure, an organised team. No great players. There's a bit of talent in his teams, but no great players. Big, strong, physical players. That's what he does. Yeah. And this is the thing, we were never going to get a 5 or 6. We know that sometimes the game can unravel once you get the breakthrough and you do score a few goals. But forget about, going for 116 goals. Just get the breakthrough, win the game today. We've got a packed Celtic Park. People go on about the effort that goes in by staff and management and the board. Come back to them in a minute. And the players. But what about the effort and the cost that goes in to the fan base who are at that game today? Chris, it's a full house. And that mainly is why I want to get the win. It's not the record. The records kind of take care of themselves. Records are that kind of thing where you're only aware of them when you're getting close to them. You're never going for 116 goals. You might get close to it. So we need to, I'm talking about the beginning of the season, you're never like, we need to break this record and that record. You just want to win the game today. Ryan Geddes, I'm going to go through a few of these comments before we get back to the action. I know that Ryan's already been up. Other than Rio, this is a full-strength team. What does that tell you? Can't afford to lose him next season. Ryan, he is the game changer. He's the guy that makes the risky pass. We've been talking about this, a playmaker. And I think that's why I wanted to see Bernardo playing more of the pivot with McGregor, in an advanced role on the left, Engels in an advanced role on the right-hand side. I've been a massive champion again of Arnie Engels. He's not his best first half, but not to the point where you take him off at half time. He can still make something happen. HRIMR, thanks for the rolling off the tongue name. I like Engels and I think he will thrive next season. But in this individual game, not much has come off for him. I don't think much has come off for any of our creative players. Maeda's not having a great game. We could pinpoint a few of the guys, but we go to Engels, we go to Ida. And I think it's because there's been this conversation, this narrative all season, Chris, about £20 million worth of talent. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, the players got talent. I just think today it's collectively we've just not really been on it. I mean, there was a little bit of interplay with him and Bernardo. It's not quite come off, back heel, and one player lays it off, the other player doesn't go for it. We saw that earlier on with Kuhn and Johnson at one point in the game as well. Kuhn lays the ball on for Johnson, Johnson doesn't read it. So just certain things are not quite coming off today, and that's why I think we need to be a bit more direct, a wee bit simpler, and not try to be one touch, fancy passes. Let's just try and force our way, into that box and get the goal. But you're right. I mean, Engels and Ida are always going to come under scrutiny because of this transfer fee that they've come in, and people expect, a big return on that investment. I think we've had that largely from both players. I just think we have to also appreciate that the players are in essentially their first season with the club. They're developing under the manager. They're still, relatively young. Let's and ultimately they've been part of a collective team that brought us on the brink of a treble. So I'm prepared to give them a wee bit of patience. What I would say is, I'm looking for players like Engels and Ida, along with all the guys alongside them, to just take a bit more accountability on the ball. Try and make something happen in games. Let's take a game by the scruff of the neck. You need that kind of player at the moment, and I'm not sure anyone's doing that. But I mean, look, 45 minutes to go. I'm not too worried. This might be one of those games like we had back in, what was it, 2001 under Martin O'Neill's first season, where we played St Mirren, relied on a late Tommy Johnson scuffed shot into the net to win the game. But I'm the same as you, because the fans, it's paradise in the sun. All the fans are there, and as the song goes, I want to see us put on a show.
Yeah, we do, and I'm going to run through some more of these comments before we get back to the action. Bit of a testimonial vibe about the game.
It does.
Yeah. It's a tempo. That's when you watch a testimonial, a benefit game, or if you come along on Monday to watch me playing for Celtic under Chris Sutton, there is a bit of a slower tempo. And it does have that about it, absolutely. Yes, last point says HRI, Mr. Last point, that corner routine was a bit embarrassing. I can't even blame the ref there. I think it's one of the ones where, we talk about, we spoke last week about set pieces with Alan Morrison, and even to the point of a throw-in. Do we utilise them well enough? No. Do we score enough goals directly from corners? And I don't mean directly from the corner kick, but, from the corner.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We absolutely don't. So it's one of the things that why not try something a wee bit different? It was took everybody by surprise, including the ref. We've got C Doll 123. Anyone else think that this referee is doing everything to stop the game at every chance? He is, yeah. Hemming is wasting so much time, and the referee Dickinson, who, let's just say is a Rangers fan, is doing nothing, and every time their player goes down, it's a foul. Yeah, I know, absolutely agree with that. Felix, come on. Felix Finion. £12 million for Engels, a total joke. That's not. That's how much he's worth. I mean, listen, 21 years of age. Let's have a look at the base data. 21 years of age, 50 games, 10 goals, 13 assists. We're on our way to winning a treble in the Champions League. At the age of 20, moving on to 21, he made 10 appearances, scored a goal, and had 3 assists. I mean, come on. It's about time that, Engels isn't a total joke because of his transfer fee. He's 21 years of age. He's not having a great game today, Felix. I agree with that. But you don't write him off based on that. Now, Jay Keane, can anyone tell me who is the person on the flag in the Queen's Brigade? Well, Chris and I spoke about this during the first half. We were messaging back and forward. And at first I thought it was Netanyahu. But then Chris pointed out that it was actually Michael Nicholson. And I'm not comparing the two of them, by the way. Come on. I'm just talking about the fact that that's who I thought it was from a distance. Then I got a close-up and a screen grabbed it. And it's definitely Michael Nicholson. Yep. Who has the crossed out logo on his face. So I don't know if they'll be asked to remove that at half time. That'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, one funny thing is the Sky can't even avoid it, right? Because so much of the action was down that corner. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, look, again, nothing personal against Michael Nicholson, but the whole thing could have been avoided very, very easily.
Of course, absolutely. And it comes down to engagement. And we talk about it on Acsom, and people sometimes get the yawn emojis out and all that. This is Trophy Day. Why are we talking about it? Well, we're talking about it because of the lack of engagement, the lack of communication. So let's enjoy the day, boards of directors. Let's talk to fans. Let's talk to fan groups. I think it's an easy sort. What you do is you have an ultra liaison officer, Chris, and not one from inside the football club, incidentally.
No.
I think you could also go as far as having a fan media liaison officer who would be able to actually liaise with 50 or 60 different platforms who
Yes.
might have some ideas and creativity on how to promote the club
Yep.
as well. And then when you go to the associations and the affiliation, who are all peeing in the same pot as the board, that doesn't work. I think you need a representative of the fans
has to
on the board.
Yeah, it has to be objective. It has to be someone that's independent and objective.
You need to mix it up.
Yep.
Listen, I know how well the club is run. I know that the figures are tremendous. The accounts are brilliant, absolutely. But there's two people on that board who have been at the football club for over 40 years combined. That's no good. That isn't giving you a diversity of ideas. We need some young blood. We need some diversity. And we need it now. That's what we need. But we also need a goal. So let's go back to the action. It's Celtic 0, St Mirren 0. Go and enjoy the second half and join Chris and I at full time on A Celtic State of Mind.